This also follows all the stories about her bullying staff over here in the UK, which is unresolved. NDAs stopped all that stuff coming out, but she bullied people in a very unpleasant way over here.
Meghan Markle's Archewell Foundation is reportedly at the center of a global firestorm, one that could unravel everything the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have built since stepping away from royal duties. According to multiple sources, a shocking report from UK Parliament has triggered a formal investigation, and what followed was explosive. A raid. Allegedly, investigators stormed Archewell's offices, seizing documents, internal communications.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, you're right. This is to do with the Royal Foundation. This is like an umbrella organisation where last February, we saw the first annual meeting. It was dubbed the Fab Four because for the first time we had Harry and Meghan on stage, Kate and William on stage.
We already know that Meghan Markle is desperately clinging to whatever opportunity arises to stay in the limelight, to stay in the spotlight as, of course, a so-called actress. That's basically what she's trying to do.
And financial records. The alleged purpose: to uncover potential misuse of funds, unanswered questions about public grant management, and whether this entire charitable empire was built on a shaky financial foundation. This isn't just tabloid drama, this is real-world accountability with serious legal and international implications. And here's why this matters. Archewell isn't some side hustle. It's the centerpiece of Meghan and Harry's public identity, the very thing they used to separate themselves from the royal system.
People wondering whether £2.4 million is a lot of money to spend on one dwelling. We should say that the palace were keen to point out that the expensive fixtures and fittings, sort of personal touches, would have been paid for by Harry and Meghan.
There's a real delight in being able to be a present parent, and it's a luxury sometimes because we all have to work, we all have a lot of stuff to do, but when you can take a minute to just...
Saturday morning.
She talks like she's a one-woman band. That is not hard work. Hard work is get up in the morning, get to 7 o'clock, get into a factory or a shop and working for 10 hours on your feet, coming home knackered. That's not what happens to her.
And still being a mom.
That is
still
not
being
what
a
happens to
mom.
her.
If that foundation collapses under the weight of investigation and scandal, so does their credibility, so does their brand, so does every project they've tied to their global mission of service and compassion. In the next few minutes, I'm gonna take you through the timeline, the players, the facts, and the fallout. Because what's allegedly happening behind closed doors right now could change how we view Meghan Markle forever. Stay locked in. According to sources with direct knowledge, the United Kingdom's Parliament has reportedly launched a full-scale legal investigation into Archewell Foundation. But this isn't some slow-moving paper audit. This is direct action, swift, aggressive, and executed with urgency. Allegedly, enforcement officials were authorized to enter Archewell's offices and retrieve physical and digital records, including financial ledgers, donor databases, internal communications, and third-party contracts. Why?
So much fun.
You and I are so similar. You and I...
With your guests, when was the last time you were surprised and delighted?
Last night, and also this morning, but last night when I went back to my hotel, and then you put your thumbprint in, which is what makes it a fun group activity, and you could fill it with jam, you could do chocolate, anything you like, of course.
Oh my gosh, I worked so hard.
Because Parliament suspects something serious may be wrong. Insiders say this move was prompted by discrepancies uncovered in Archewell's public filings. Discrepancies that Parliament now believes could signal a pattern of financial mismanagement or misrepresentation. According to one informed government, contact investigators are hunting for inconsistencies or misleading disclosures in both domestic and international charitable transactions. That includes any grants, UK-based donations, or contracts involving British partners. This is no routine checkup. This is what happens when lawmakers believe a nonprofit might be operating outside its legal bounds. Parliament doesn't order.
Harry and Meghan are the problem. And while we're going to go over all the people that they've hired, just as a great reminder, the couple have hired plenty of professionals before. People at high levels who have worked for Bill Gates, Patagonia, all these sorts of things. And yet none of them have been successful. The common denominator in everything here is Harry and Meghan.
Document seizures unless there's real, credible concern. And that means Archewell could be facing not only reputational ruin, but potential legal repercussions across multiple countries. And if these seized documents reveal intent or negligence, That's where things escalate from civil concern to something much, much worse. Long before the UK got involved, Archewell was already on thin ice, right in its own backyard. In May, the California Attorney General's office officially listed the foundation as delinquent. Why? Archewell reportedly failed to submit its annual renewal documentation and pay the associated filing fee. That may sound like a simple clerical error, but in the world of charitable compliance, it's a flashing red flag. During the time Archewell was flagged delinquent, it was legally prohibited from soliciting donations or disbursing charitable funds, activities that could land any foundation in deep legal water if continued during a non-compliant period. And here's where it gets even messier. California Governor Gavin Newsom, in a rare move, stepped forward to publicly defend Archewell. He brushed the incident off as a technical paperwork issue and insisted the foundation was being unfairly targeted by the media.
Proud to, if you excuse the massive book deals, the Silicon Valley startups, the preaching videos about well-being, the podcasts, the speeches, and the major network interviews with everyone from Oprah Winfrey to James Corden. But they've barely been seen or heard at all, have they? Well, on Thursday, they'll quietly and apologetically release their $100 million.
Now, we already know that many studios are beginning to really find her very repulsive based on her behavior, not just in the public eye, but also within Netflix, all right?
The charity was later restored to good standing after filing the missing documents, but the damage was already done. Because that delinquent label, it doesn't just disappear, it becomes a permanent part of the public record. It signals instability, and now UK Parliament is reportedly using that incident as further justification for their own investigation.
It's about an hour-long cab ride, never seen as grandchildren. This show is packed with the kind of spurious claims and hypocrisy that have become the Sussex signature. We learned they began making videos about their heroic journey 6 months before their Netflix deal was even announced, and right at the start of a pandemic that was killing.
Zoom in here and it says, with the compliments of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. That is a title that was stripped from her when she and Harry made their whole racism debacle and left the UK, left their royal duties, and moved to the US to bug all of us.
If Archewell couldn't keep up with basic compliance in its home state, how can international donors be sure their contributions were handled properly abroad? This California slip-up may have seemed small at the time, but it's now a critical piece of a much larger, far more dangerous puzzle. Governor Gavin Newsom's defense of Archewell wasn't just political, it felt presidential. When the California Attorney General's office labeled Meghan and Harry's foundation delinquent, most public officials would have remained silent, letting the situation resolve through legal channels. But not Newsom. He took the rare step of issuing a full-throated public statement, describing Archewell as an invaluable community partner and calling the media coverage of the incident wildly overhyped. Newsom didn't just stop there. He praised Archewell's initiatives in mental health awareness, youth outreach, and women's empowerment. He even referenced specific programs supported by the foundation that, in his words, change lives every day in underserved communities. And while that kind of praise might sound noble on paper, behind the scenes, it raised eyebrows across government and media circles alike. Why? Because this wasn't a typical clerical error. It was a formal compliance failure that barred Archewell from fundraising and distributing funds. Yet Newsom spun it into a political opportunity. And it's not just the praise that stands out, it's the timing. While California was cleaning up the mess, the UK was just getting started with its own investigation. So now Archewell finds itself at the heart of a geopolitical tug of war. One side of the Atlantic is applauding their impact, the other side is reportedly raiding their files. The contradiction couldn't be more glaring, and it only fuels the perception that something much bigger is being hidden behind the scenes. No, just as things began heating up, Parliament made its next move, and it was anything but subtle. This isn't just a matter of paperwork or late filings anymore. According to credible insider reports, UK Parliament has escalated its inquiry into Archewell to an entirely new level, one involving cross-border cooperation and potential diplomatic fallout. Sources say members of Parliament are now engaging with US authorities through formal diplomatic channels, attempting to secure access to Archewell's records under bilateral legal frameworks. We're talking about potential subpoenas, aimed at US-based board members, financial institutions, and even private contractors. There's speculation that international financial watchdogs could soon get involved, and if any irregularities are found, especially involving international grants, public funds, or tax-exempt status, sanctions could be on the table. That's not tabloid speculation. That's real-world consequence. According to one parliamentary aide, this is no longer an audit, it's a full-blown legal probe with international stakes. And here's the kicker. The Sussex's UK taxpayer connection, however symbolic it may now be, is still being scrutinized. Any trace of misused funding tied back to their former royal duties could have political and legal ramifications far beyond just Archewell's future. This is not the road Meghan and Harry imagined when they launched their Freedom brand. The foundation that was supposed to represent independence and global compassion is now allegedly triggering red flags in the highest circles of government, and that pressure, it's spreading to the one place they never wanted it to go, the royal inner circle. Back in London, the ripple effects of the Archewell investigation are reportedly being felt inside Buckingham Palace itself. According to palace insiders, senior aides have entered what one described as quiet but urgent crisis mode. This isn't just about Meghan and Harry's reputation anymore. It's about the monarchy's integrity. And when the crown is mentioned in the same sentence as a potential financial scandal, alarms start blaring. Let's be clear, Meghan and Harry officially stepped back from royal duties, but that doesn't mean the public has separated them from the institution. In fact, many still view Archewell's work and funding as being royal adjacent, whether it's donors who contributed because of their titles or global partners who assumed royal endorsement, the perception remains. And perception is everything. Insiders say palace staff are now combing through old briefings and public statements to determine whether any former royal privileges were used in Archewell's operations, if there's even a hint of public money, influence, or taxpayer benefit. Having crossed the Atlantic inappropriately, the fallout could be catastrophic, not just for Meghan, but for the entire House of Windsor. One royal source summed it up bluntly. This isn't just her scandal, it could become ours, which is why the next group to get nervous, the donors. Money talks, and when investigations start, it screams. In the wake of the reported raids and the growing investigation, several of Archewell's major donors are said to be pumping the brakes. According to insiders familiar with the foundation's financial flow, donor boards across multiple philanthropic organizations are now demanding detailed, line-by-line breakdowns of how their funds were used. And until those records are produced and verified, the money's frozen. Multiple grants that were set to be renewed this quarter are now reportedly suspended. Recurring donation streams, especially those from private trusts and media-linked partnerships, are on hold, and future fundraising events have been quietly pushed back or canceled entirely. Why? Because no one wants their name attached to a sinking ship. The worst part, charitable operations have reportedly already been impacted. Staff reductions, project halts, and community program delays are being whispered about behind the scenes. If the investigation drags on and trust isn't restored, then Archewell's operations could go from paused to permanently dismantled. And for a foundation built on ideals of global change, that would be more than just a scandal. It would be a collapse. Once word of the raid and seized documents hit the internet, social media exploded. Hashtags like Archewell raid and Sussex scandal began trending within hours. Major news outlets launched multi-part exposés examining every angle, from the Parliament report to California's delinquency issue. Even tabloids that once presented the couple favorably took a hardline stance. Once public perception links wrongdoing to a brand, reversing that image becomes an uphill battle. That technical filing error, it's now being spun into a defining scandal, one fueled by memes, speculation, and relentless headlines. And the public's judgment can't easily be undone. Inside sources say Archewell has now activated full crisis mode. Damage control isn't just a possibility, it's a necessity. The foundation has reportedly brought on new UK-based legal counsel to specifically handle the Parliament investigation. According to one insider close to the team, internal audit groups have already begun combing through the foundation's finances, emails, and operational records in a rush to get ahead of the headlines. Spokespeople are reportedly telling donors that Archewell is cooperating fully and will supply any missing or delayed documentation. Private briefings are also said to be taking place with high-profile media allies, celebrity endorsers, and even former political contacts to help shape the narrative. There's talk of pre-written statements waiting in the wings in case of a full media explosion. But the big question is it too late? History shows us, once scrutiny reaches this level, the only path forward is fast, public transparency. Drag your feet and the perception becomes guilt. Offer silence and the press fills in the blanks. For you, if Archewell doesn't take full control of the story now, then the headlines will, and they won't be forgiving. This isn't just a crisis for Archewell, it's a reckoning for the entire Sussex brand. Let's be clear, Archewell is the engine behind nearly every major partnership Meghan and Harry have pursued. From multi-million-dollar Netflix deals, to coordinated speaking appearances, from political networking to lifestyle branding, everything they've built outside the royal family runs through Archewell. And if that engine is compromised, the whole vehicle stops moving. Industry analysts are reportedly warning media partners behind the scenes that this could become a contagious liability. If the investigation leads to further legal actions or trust violations, it could prompt a chain reaction, cancellations, delays, and broken deals. Netflix is already under pressure to deliver content with impact. Spotify already pulled the plug. Can the Sussexes afford another brand fracture? One bad headline can be cleaned up. But this is a landslide. Years of meticulously controlled public image work, undone in a matter of days. They are standing at the edge of the most pivotal moment in their post-royal life. Rebuild from the ashes, or let the whole thing collapse. For years, Meghan and Harry framed Archewell as a symbol of transformation, a mission-driven organization committed to community, healing, and impact. And for a while, the public bought in. People wanted to believe in their breakaway story. But now, that belief is being tested. This isn't just about missing paperwork. It's about how they respond when cornered. The Sussexes are now facing their first real public accountability test. Do they step forward, take ownership, and present the full picture? Or do they go dark and let speculation do the talking? Because in the age of receipts and viral backlash, silence doesn't protect you, it buries you. Critics are already reshaping the narrative. Meghan is no longer being discussed as a groundbreaking philanthropist. She's being labeled as a high-risk celebrity brand teetering on the edge of scandal. And Harry? Caught in the fallout whether he likes it or not. How they act right now, today, this week, this month, will define the next decade of their careers. Will they lead with truth, or become a cautionary tale of celebrity ambition turned chaos? Archewell. Offices have been reportedly raided, documents have allegedly been seized. Parliament is digging in and donors are pulling back. Meghan and Harry are at a public crossroads. They can respond with transparency, reform, and genuine accountability, or allow this to spiral into a full-blown crisis. Their future influence, deals, and reputation are tied to their next move. I want to hear from you. Do you believe they can recover, or is this the beginning of the end for Archewell?